Let's get started. 5, 4. Are you okay with that?
Yes.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Your Excellency, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
I wanted to get started by, I was looking at pictures and videos of Switzerland throughout past couple of days, and similarities between our two countries when it comes to geological similarities when it comes to our mountains and the Alps, lakes. Similarities are endless. When the first time you visited Nepal, did you feel that when you were here back in early 2000s?
Yes, of course. And interestingly, when Switzerland's Development Cooperation started in 60, Switzerland chose countries which are similar. Like Nepal was the first. And it was because it's similar, because we thought we know what we can do, because we know how we do it.
Yeah.
And we started with cheese, because we knew how to do cheese. So I think it was always this similarity who attracted Switzerland. And of course, I felt that's a big attraction. I mean, the mountains. But it's not only that, it's the diversity. And I think also Switzerland has a lot of diversity, not that much as Nepal, but I think this diversity and this on a very small space, so much different diversity, I think that attracted me as well, of course, and attracted all the Swiss who are coming and came.
You felt like home as soon as you were here?
I felt very much at home, but this had nothing to do probably with the landscape, but it's more about emotions and emotions. I connected well with the emotions of Nepali.
20 years, almost 20 years now, give or take. And when you look back at all these years, the ups and downs that we've had, you arrived when we were right in between conflict, right towards the let's say towards the end of the conflict. Let me put it that way, right towards the end of conflict. And now looking at what we have, what we've achieved, how far we've come, how does it make you feel?
Generally, I'm positive when I look at it. Many people come and complain, and I say, okay, what is the baseline and what is the trend? And I say the baseline for me is 2000, end of the Civil War, insurgency 2006. And when I look at the trend, I think it's positive. Because I have this overview since 2006, and I believe it is a positive development. For me, this is very satisfactory, because in many countries the trend goes down. So the trend here is still positive.
Trend goes down in a sense, whatever we've accomplished, we are not being able to fulfill, or we're not being able to go ahead and keep up with what we've accomplished?
I believe other countries get more autocratic and so on, and Nepal still is on a trajectory on democracy, has the human right violation has definitely go down since 2006. I mean, there is a press freedom. I mean, many indicators show that this country is in a democratic process and in a society development process which is positive. Yeah.
Is this what, let me put it in this way, our relationship goes back since 1950s. In 1956, if I'm not mistaken, we established ties together. Embassy came over towards the later part of the 2000s, but we've had diplomatic relations since the 1950s. So for the past, give or take, 70 years, more than 70 years, the Swiss people of Switzerland, as well as people of Nepal, have had ties for such a long time. And now, how is the tie till today? After 70 years, how do you think our ties are on today's date?
I believe they are very strong ties. We have been always seen as an impartial partner, not having self-interest. As a Swiss government, we had never had any geopolitical interest, never economic interest so far. That might change. Having said that, we have this kind of very strong ties, the government to government, but we have very strong ties between a Swiss citizen and Nepal citizen. I mean, all this, there's hundreds of NGOs supported by Swiss citizens, and a lot of solidarity we have seen after the earthquake. I think we have very emotional, strong ties with Nepal, Swiss citizen and the Swiss government.
I was looking at the records of, there's a lot of Swiss citizens coming to Nepal, especially when it comes to tourism as well, to be a part of our 8,000-meter peaks and in general to enjoy the beauty that we have. And in the coming years, or in a few decades, our people from our country will be able to go ahead and visit Switzerland as well and enjoy what the Switzerland has to offer as well. And that's definitely going to grow. Before we started, we were casually talking about back in the day, in the early 2000s when you were here, and things were quite different. I'm just thinking about a few instances when we did not have electricity. Let me start off with that. Just try to get your understanding on that. There was a time when we were 18 hours without electricity, and today we have surplus of electricity in our country in a very short span of time. The knowledge base of Switzerland is very high when it comes to hydropower, if I'm not mistaken, when it comes to technical skills. How do you think we've adapted to skills, especially learning, in the past 18 to 20 years?
I mean, I see the whole education system or the level of education of the young Nepali is of course totally a different state as it was. I mean, you have now young, good educated people. We have been, as you mentioned before, in the technical vocational education system since the very, very beginning with Balaju, Jiri, technical education, and we are still in this sector. Of course, now different than in the past. We are more now really supporting the provincial government and the local government to be able to fulfill their mandate, because the constitution has given the province the mandate to run the schools and the local level as well. So we are now really helping the government's level to implement the TVET strategy. And also we have been supporting the government of Nepal and the private sector to develop this dual model education system where young people can have a lot of practical know-how, because we have seen again and again that private sector says they don't get the right skilled people. So we are still in this field, and when we compare with other countries, then we see Nepal is one of the country in the technical vocational education system, in a dual VET system, most advanced in the world. This is sometimes not believable, but that's what we see, much more than the US and other countries.
Would you, let me give everybody a little bit of context. In 1962, we started Balaju School of Engineering and Technology with the support of the Swiss Corporation. And obviously, Sanotimi, and we moved on to that. Now on today's date, can you elaborate a little bit, especially to my young listener base, what exactly is the dual system of education?
Thank you. The dual system is a system where the young students spend most of their week time in the industry or in enterprise and only go one day to a technical school. Or they have 4 or 5 months in an industry and then 1 month in a technical school. So it is really the majority of their time they spend in the industry itself. Because then they learn the life skill, they earn from the beginning, and they also learn the real work, and not only theoretical, but also the practical knowledge. And in Switzerland, 80% of the young people, they go for a dual VET system, for a technical vocational system, but a dual VET, where you spend 1 day in a school and the rest. Only 20% go for higher education. So our system is built on that. which helps because now when we talk with the private sector here, they say we don't get the right skilled laborers. So this is really a matching between the needs of the industry and also the need of the young people.
Okay, so just trying to understand this, how it works in Switzerland. I haven't been there yet. So let's say I'm 18-year-old, 16 or 18. Let's say I finished high school.
Yeah.
Once you're done with high school, then let's say I want to go ahead and be a plumber, let's say. Then I go and learn in the private sector directly.
Yes. Yes.
And then for a month, I will go and get training in the technical school.
Yeah, usually in the plumberies, it's like this. You work 4 days in the enterprise and 1 day you go to school. And for example, my nephew, he is now 15. He is now thinking what kind of profession he wants to learn. He goes to enterprises. He spends a day to see if he likes it. And then he goes to the next one. And then he has to apply to get in an enterprise a position or a space to learn.
It's like an internship. Or not even an internship. It's just like just trying to go ahead and try.
Yeah, you have to. And now then there's quite a tough selection because there's many students who want maybe to compete on one position in an enterprise, and then the enterprise can choose. And then the enterprise has the duty to train you properly, practically, and let you go 1 day to school to learn the theory.
So is this the system that obviously this is a system that's worked in Switzerland? How do you think we are grasping this system if this works out here?
I mean, it's not only Switzerland; it's Germany and Austria, where we have a lot of small and medium enterprises where this has shown as a very good model. I believe when we compare with other countries where we also support governments in introducing this kind of more practical learning, we see Nepal is quite ahead because the private sector is very interested. But we have also we also see that the government is very interested. It's really an openness because the understanding is there that this country needs young people. With skills, with know-how and skills.
What kind of skills are we talking about, if you just had to elaborate a little bit?
I mean, this is, for example, nursing is the same. Then we go, for example, a plumber or, I mean, anything.
Anything that people want to go ahead and learn.
Anything beside a university where you get a doctor or you get a engineer. But you can also make sub-engineer. This is also a technical vocational education and not higher education.
Well, CERN is in the Switzerland, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm just thinking, what kind of students there are a lot of students who are leaving the country today to go out and study outside of Nepal. There are a lot of people who are leaving the country to work outside of this country, to study as well as work. I didn't know that when we were talking off air, when you shared that Switzerland at one point survived on remittance. Migration as well. I really didn't know that. Would you mind sharing just a little bit about how that was in that time period of Switzerland?
First of all, we always had soldiers in foreign countries' army. That is something Nepal also knows, and this was out of poverty. That was not out of pride, that was out of poverty. They joined the French king's army or Russian king's army or Tsar's army, so that was one strategy. Then we had also Swiss people who migrated to Russia and other countries to have a bakery shop or this kind of occupation. Because especially in the mountain, there was not enough jobs. There was not enough, there was poverty. It was really poverty. Until in the 50s in the mountain, Switzerland, in the mountain was very poor. So then they came back, and you see still now in the Swiss mountains, you see the houses, the big houses are from the migrants, Like you see now here, the concrete houses in the village, they have been built on remittance. So I believe there is a parallel development. what made them stop to go to migration? I mean, many reasons, but one was also tourism in the mountains, of course, which gave some employment, which has given some future to mountain villages, you know.
So the situation that we have today as well is very similar to what we have in Nepal.
Yes. I mean, as I said before...
Excellent. Let's quickly fix this. Ma'am, if you could just grab it. Don't, hold on. He'll quickly fix it. त्यो बन्द गरिदेऊ न त्यो उतापट्टिको. No. You're good. त्यो सट्टा त्यो strap लगाइदेऊ न.
It's
Okay, you're perfect. Yeah, we'll tighten it for you. Okay,
good,
perfect.
Yeah.
No, the thing is that we were quickly talking was... this is 100 years ago, 120 years ago, 150 years ago. Mm-hmm. So today, where we stand with our GDP as well, the progress and what we can achieve, 100 years from now, what do you envision for Nepal if you had to, as a friend of Nepal?
Of course, I hope that in 100 years you have enough of small and medium enterprises which bring innovation and attracts young people to stay here and see a future in Nepal. Because I believe many people migrate not only because of economic reason, because also because of their lack of maybe perspective. So I believe I see Nepal as a country where a lot of innovation can happen when you're able to attract young people. We had, again and again, also discussion with the government in terms of supporting foreign investment. Nowadays, Nepal was very isolated, you know, disconnected from the global market since recently. So, but nowadays, I think Nepal is also part of the global world, and Nepal can play a role in this global world when it's connected with this global world. But for that, Nepal needs innovation, know-how, exchange. And for that, we need foreign investments, you know, not these million mega programs, but, you know, small businesses from abroad who are interesting, especially also in the fintech or in the IT sector. I believe there is a lot of potential. And also a lot of potential to come in for foreign investment. But I think there the country still needs to open for that, to understand it's not the big business will change this country, it's the small and medium enterprises. Nepal will be a service delivery country and not an industrializing country, and not a country which will survive on agriculture. I don't believe it. I believe, like Switzerland, in a service delivery country.
Obviously, your background is when it comes to agriculture. You've got engineering in agriculture as well, right? In your early days. So, when it comes to service, when it comes to providing service, let me jump a little bit to it, Switzerland. Whenever I travel and whenever I see some of the most expensive, some of the most luxury brands in the planet, from Cartier to Hublot to Rolex to I can Patek Philippe to I could name a lot of brands. Majority of them are from Switzerland. When we think of Swiss, we definitely think about the chocolate, and we'll think about the luxury brands, and we'll think about, like you said, quality and premium that Switzerland has to offer. How long did it take Switzerland to get there? We just spoke about 120, 150 years. It obviously didn't happen overnight. To get there and to keep it that way.
Well, that's a difficult question. I just can say, you know, Switzerland is always seen as the one of the country with the most innovation, you know, and that has to do with probably the economic frame, with the political stability, with the TVET sector, because we have good people. As I said, with political stability. And Switzerland is not a country, we cannot compete with agriculture. We have to compete with quality products, you know. And be it in agriculture, be it in everywhere, our only chance to survive is. And Switzerland is known, as you said, watches and chocolate, but we are the country with one of the best innovation in so many different fields, you know. So I believe Nepal will have to survive on quality, be it agriculture products, on quality also in hospitality. I believe Nepal can play a role in the IT sector on quality. Nepal can also play with the cheaper workforce, which we cannot, because Switzerland is very expensive. So we have to focus on quality, you know.
We have more options than when I think about when we think about it. We've got a fantastic young as well as young force which can go abroad and definitely go ahead and provide service abroad. And we also have innovative technical skills, especially when it comes to kids who want to learn a lot of technical skills and innovate within the country as well. So we have both the options right here, like you just said.
Yes, I believe so. But again, I think you need political stability to be able to really build on it.
Again, I'm obviously just trying to get a gist and just trying to compare. I've always heard the word, which you made me understand earlier before we got started. I always heard the word neutral, constantly. And now, obviously, when we're talking off air, I'll just use one word, clever as well. Right? How do we stand today? Because back in 2004, you were right at the heart of the conflict, and you traveled across the country, met with all the some of the leaders, let's say, who now run the country, who practically are now running the country. When you look back and on today's date as well, you know, what do you see? Have we gotten that far when you met them back in that day, and when you meet them today? Have we crossed over? Have we made that difference? Or are we on the process of making that change?
As I said, I believe Nepal is on a positive trajectory, I have to say, you know.
Of course.
I believe Nepal and the country was able to have a very good constitution. A very progressive constitution. Of course, a constitution is never perfect, you can change. But as a starting point, your constitution is good. So that's already a lot, you know, I would say. And then Nepal was able to somehow go to an earthquake and COVID and the resilience. I don't like so much this word, but now I use it. The resilience is amazing. Having said that, it needs political stability.
How would you describe that?
Political stability. It's predictability. You know, that a process, that a system can be built. You know, we always said it will be a bumpy road. It takes 15 years at least, maybe 3 election cycles to build up the system. But of course, the change was huge from a system before to now the constitution it has now. And it takes time to establish a new system, but it needs also certain parameters which need to be implemented in order that this implementation of the constitution probably can go on. And I would like to mention, for example, the Civil Service Act or the Education Act. I mean, the constitution is clear on certain responsibilities, and there is an unbundling report which defines which tiers has which mandate, but the federal government, parliament, has not yet approved most of the necessary important bills to give this country a chance to implement the constitution. When we go to the provinces, they have 47% of the staff. I mean, this cannot be, and a high turnover all the time. So I believe, give it a try. And for that, there need certain amendments or certain bills and acts passed.
to see that change happening.
Yes. It cannot happen otherwise.
Predictability, that's the word that you used, which is very interesting. When it comes to not just the West, when it comes to foreign powers, looking at a small nation like ours, how predictable are we on today's day?
You said before, I mean, Switzerland is similar to Nepal, and we have seen also, we have been surrounded in many years with with big powers. I think we were able to manage because we had political stability and because the government, when they had to negotiate or whatever, did it for the Swiss people. And I think maybe I'm wrong, but I think that was also the secret how we could survive.
Survive the wars, survive the recession, survive.
Yeah, I believe so. I don't. I really believe they were able to negotiate solutions. And as I told you before, when I was young, we were very critical towards my parents' and grandparents' generation, who always pretended we survived because of our army. And I think we survived because there were clever deals done.
Shaking hands. Well, we live between some of the biggest superpowers in the planet in the coming decades. Both our neighbors are going to be the biggest when it comes to GDP, when it comes to economy, when it comes to their armies, when it comes to, I could talk about thousands of different things with both our neighbors on the side. Making deals, the art of making deals, that is something that is going to make. Is it the art of making the deal that makes and breaks a country?
Oh, that's a different question. When I met the foreign minister the last, I said, Nepal needs to prepare for climate negotiation. To have good people in the system who are able to negotiate on climate compensation, because Nepal will be very much affected by climate change. So I think the country has to prepare to be good in negotiation, international negotiation.
Obviously, when it comes to renewable energy, the Swiss are right at the top. The climate change is something that's very near and dear to my heart as well, and we obviously have humongous organizations that are in this country trying to go ahead and hopefully, well, I like to believe making a change, making a difference. Making a deal, or let's say talking to the Western nations or talking to nations within our sphere of the impact that's going to happen in another 100 years. That is going to directly impact us, countries like us, which is a Himalayan nation. What are the things that we could start talking about right now to see that in 100 years we are there right at the map when it comes to a country that had started talking on climate change, if you had to throw in some words?
Maybe I start with pollution. I mean, air pollution. This is a regional problem. I think that has to be started to be talking about, because this cannot be solved. Climate change and environmental issue cannot be solved anymore by one country. It needs international. I mean, an international cooperation that we see, and how we also see how difficult it is. But probably Nepal cannot solve it alone, But what Nepal can do is somehow prevent that the effect of climate change is hitting it or hitting it less, For example, when we see nowadays when there is landslide, there is mainly a bulldozer road, engineered bulldozer road. So I mean, many effects where which are linked to climate change or bad governance. So I think the preparation on how Nepal can handle the shocks less, that they hit less, I think there Nepal has to really, really, really invest. That's in your hands. But I mean, the whole climate change issue is not. The glacier lake the glacier melting is not in your hand. There you have to also collaborate with the international system, you know. But you can prepare on that it's not hit so much.
So one aspect where we can directly start working on is air pollution. That's
air pollution, but also I would say to prevent the landslide by not having these unengineered bulldozer roads, you know, because we see many times when there is landslide, there is something which happened. Then also the deforestation in certain parts. Nepal has an increased forest coverage, which is positive, but in certain area has a huge deforestation. Especially in the Chure Mountains. So I think there you also could start to protect it, because it will avoid that the big floods will coming. So you can do it in the preparation, in preparedness.
Knowledge and skill towards the technical sector, that's what I had mentioned earlier as well, and that's something that you constantly talk about. When it comes to hydropower, that's something that's very close to my heart as well, and we've practically changed the whole landscape from coming from darkness to now abundant amount of light. I have a feeling down the road we will be able to go ahead and sell our electricity, and water is going to be something that is more valuable than oil in coming decades. Maybe not now, but in coming decades, that's what is going to happen.
Absolutely.
Switzerland is full of water as well, if I'm not mistaken, with great lakes as well. We have more than 6,000 rivers. More than, I believe, more than 60,000 or 6,000. How many rivers did we have?
6,600.
6,600 rivers, more than that. So we are going to be, we are going to have a lot of energy. That's what I'm hoping for. When it comes to providing let's say, added knowledge, especially for the hydropower sector.
Cross-check.
Yeah, okay, no problem. Okay, thanks.
It's not 96%.
Oh, it was not?
No.
Oh, it was about Switzerland earlier? That what I had said?
Glass.
Oh, okay, glass.
Yeah, glass.
90%.
Yeah,
oh,
glass.
okay.
But overall, it's like 50 to 70%.
Oh, okay. Glass is
It's not
90%, bottles is 83%,
Yes.
aluminum cans is 95%, and paper and cardboard is 85%. That's a lot when you think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, at least I got that right. Okay. Thank you so much for letting me know. When it comes to the Swiss people and obviously the embassy here as well, when it comes to providing knowledge base and providing technical knowledge base, what are the sectors that the Embassy of Switzerland is working on and the Swiss people are helping us out with, if you had to pinpoint a few?
With the development cooperation, as I said, we were always supporting more in the engineering part, motor bridges, irrigation, now tunneling. So we were more in this tech infrastructure sector. But what we try now is also, as an embassy, to promote Swiss enterprises here. And not in view really also to promote know-how innovation here. And we had the first Swiss business fact-finding mission last October, where we try to bring really enterprises who can bring this innovation to Nepal. And we will have a next fact-finding mission on fintech in this September, where we really try to bring fintech companies from Switzerland to Nepal. And the view is, of course, to promote also Swiss enterprises, but also very much also to have this kind of joint ventures between Swiss companies and Nepal companies for innovation and growth.
When we constantly talk about this word called innovation, recently a person very close to my heart and somebody who we know who is a pioneer in innovation in our country, who has started an innovation school as well, had to sit on the street to get his voice heard. I'm talking about Mahavir Pun. And when it comes to innovation, when it comes to creating something from nothing when it comes to creating and having an idea and putting it out there. It's not an easy task. Would it be anywhere in the world? You just mentioned that obviously there's going to be a lot of things that's going to happen when it comes to innovation, and maybe having friends from Switzerland coming over, and maybe there's going to be a conversation about innovation. Would you elaborate that a little bit, the word innovation, and what exactly we have in mind in the coming years?
It is... I think you have the brightest people in the world. You know, I mean, when you see Nepal sends the brightest people abroad, they come back. I mean, the CERN in Geneva has Nepali. We have in the big companies in Novartis and the top management Nepali. So I think in many areas there is the brightest Nepali, and many Nepali also are abroad and in bioengineering. You know, for example. And in research, you know, and the know-how is here, but the frame is not here yet. For example, I think you could get back so many Nepali in the research sector if there would be some possibility to develop a good research standard in Nepal. I see innovation has a link to research, you know, be it in medical research. I mean, be it in artificial intelligence, be it whatsoever, you know, you have really the best people in the world.
Thank you so much for that. And that's very beautiful. And exactly earlier I mentioned CERN as well, and we have friends in CERN as well.
And in Novartis, as I said, and in many enterprises worldwide, you know, nowadays, Nepali are recognized for their brilliance, and
When it comes to challenges of being here and working here, if you had to mention any, when it comes to any kind of challenges that you faced while you were here in a span of, let's say, 20 years, something that you could look back and you'd be like, okay, I wish that was something, maybe this had happened. Anything you want to look back and be like, oh, I wish this was implemented sooner, or this had happened. Anything?
Civil Service Act.
That is one place where you think we could have...
Yeah, you have to move ahead. I mean, everybody knows that I think it, but I think really has to be done. And I mean, infrastructure has changed a lot. This country is different because of road and road access. I think here, this is not the same country anymore. Education is different. I think rule of law has also to somehow chip in a system where people who do wrong have to be accountable for what they have done. I think this helps a lot for business environment, because without that, this rule of law, without predictability, as I said, it is difficult to develop a very strong economic development.
Opportunities that we grasped right away in the past 2 decades or 3 decades, opportunities that we saw and we grasped, that you're really happy that we
hydropower. As I said, hydropower. Hydropower. This is one of the probably strongest asset Nepal has.
On today's day.
Yeah.
Well, opportunities and definitely challenges.
Yes, the challenges. I wanted to say, because you mentioned before, you know, we have seen in Switzerland now due to climate change that we don't have enough water anymore in our hydropower lakes. Yes, because it didn't snow, and then the glaciers are melting. So that is something. This water reservoir in Switzerland and here is not forever if it continues to melt. So yes.
We definitely have to work on it right away. And we have to make sure that we start working with organizations, and we start working with governments to make sure that probably not for my generation, but for maybe probably for the next generation, not even for the next, but for the generation after that.
Exactly.
We have to work on that right away. There's something that I definitely wanted to get in touch with, make sure that we talk about this today was, I just wanted to talk about this one word, which I wanted to get your perspective on it, if you don't mind me asking. There's a word that has been roaming around recently, past few days across the country, and the word is called corruption. In Nepali, we call it bhrashtachar. When it comes to corruption, when it comes to obviously leakage, when it comes to things not working out, people just working just for themselves, not for the benefit of the mass. This is a problem that I believe a lot of developing nations face, and it's right out there. What's your take on corruption?
You see, I said it before, there is not one country who's more corrupt or less corrupt. It's the system which allows it or not allows it. And I said before, it's the rule of law system, the impunity in Switzerland. I mean, people are equally corrupt probably as here. I mean, not the petty corruption, we don't have that. That's definitely not here. But I mean, in the infrastructure sector, there is also cases of corruption. But then the system chips in, and these people are punished. Yeah, because we have a rule of law system, and I believe that is important. I don't believe that anybody is more corrupt or less corrupt, but it's a system which allows it or not.
So the overall system needs to get overhauled.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, you know, just to mention maybe transitional justice, you know, is one thing. People think this is something to allow the past to be closed, the chapter. But for me, it's also to establish a rule of law system which doesn't allow that people commit some crimes without any consequences. And therefore, I believe it should and hopefully has an effect on the whole rule of law system, that if somebody does wrong, that there is a system which comes in, and also then consequences.
Does the checks and does the balances as well?
Yes.
In 2 decades of you being here, in various roles, if I'd mention that, Your Excellency, have we grown? Have we changed and evolved when it comes to those checks and balances from your perspective?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, since 2006, definitely, of course. But I think it's still a way to go.
We have a long way to go, or we have a short way to go?
I should ask you. But definitely, I think there is still room for improvement. Yeah, that's maybe, but yeah. But you're a very young nation, and I said your constitution is very good. So I'm very hopeful. You know,
4,000, a lot of 4,000 meter peaks in Switzerland. Have you ever gotten the chance to get very close to any of the peaks in your country first? Let me ask that.
I know I was climbing in the past when I was very young, but I was never very good because I was afraid. So I tried it, but I never got up to that. Maybe to 3.5, 3.7, but not more, because I was not courage enough.
And how about here? You've been here for such a long time.
Yeah.
Have you gotten very, very close to some of our mountains?
I mean, I did a lot of walking in the mountains. And as I said, 10 years ago, there were no roads. So we walked for many hours, many days. So, but of course, I explored this country and the beauty of the mountain. Yes, I did. I'm very happy for that and grateful.
We're glad. I wanted just to talk a little bit about Dr. Tony Hagen. Hagen. One of the first foreigner to trek as well as to go ahead and map Nepal. Would you mind sharing a little bit about Dr. Tony Haggett from whatever you want?
Yeah, I mean, he was asked by the then king to come and explore if there is any natural resources, and he fell in love with Nepal, and I think he traveled all over, and he stayed. He came for many years, and I believe he has established really this notion of friendship between Nepal and Switzerland, and has contributed. I mean, he was one of the first foreigner in this country who explored this kind of region and area. And he must have.
Is that his documentary?
He must have impressed a lot of people by his also way of simplicity and engagement. So I believe he has, of course, laid out the friendship path of friendship between Nepal and Switzerland, and you can go in many places. I was last week in Rolpa in a hotel, and he said, "Yes, I mean Tony Haggett was our hero then." So still, I mean, after all these days, you know. And we have to recognize his legacy very much, you know. Yeah.
Swiss geologist who visited Nepal back in 1950s.
Yeah.
He was here back in 56. That actually was the bridge between Nepal and Switzerland, and I believe.
Exactly, started. And then later on we came with other experts. You know, at the time we all came with experts, Swiss experts, and that's the beauty now. You don't need that anymore. You have it in your country yourself. You could find nowadays geologists doing it. You find everything here. So the human resources, is now at a totally different, of course, level as it was.
It's totally, totally endless. Obviously, you worked on so many different sectors here, and Your Excellency, I wanted to understand when it comes to human rights, when it comes to equal rights as well. You worked on this as well. You've advocated on this as well, and in 2023. Are there areas we need to? I'm sure there are areas where we need to make it better. You've extensively traveled this country as well. May it be Tarai, may it be the hills, may it be the mountains. You've extensively traveled, not just now, but during the conflict, from what I hear. Anything you want to add on when it comes to human rights, when it comes to equal rights?
Yeah. You know, again, I said the Constitution is very good and gives the equal rights. You know, the preamble is very good, your preamble, and you can be very proud on it. And we have in our embassy the preamble of the Nepali Constitution and the Swiss, you know. So, this is very important. So that's the basis again. And I believe a lot has changed, of course, but having said that, I was really, in the Terai 2 months ago, and I was in Rolpa and Rukum and Karnali as well. And I have to say, I was emotionally very much sad and touched when I see the Dalit community still there. That's not over. Inclusion still needs to be continued. Inclusion, this kind of life they have there. And then I had a lot of reflection. I was also in a Musa community in Tarai, in a village, and I went to this village and I said, "Oh, this looks like an African village. What makes poverty poverty? No, why is it seen as so poor?" Because they had livestock, and I didn't feel that they were so miserable like the others I have seen now in Rolpa, Nurkum, and Kanali. And then what makes them probably, what it is still this stigmatization. This makes them poor. And it's less nowadays the physical, the wealth, you know. This is relative. When you go to an African village, you would not consider it as poor. But here it's considered poor. And the poorness, for me, the poverty makes really this exclusion. Yeah. And that was, for me, really touching when I saw it, I have to tell you.
How do we get out of it? How do we make it better? How do we make the lives of our own friends? How do we make it better? If you had to share. what do you have in your mind?
We have now the local government, and they do a lot. I mean, the service delivery and to reach out to this community has changed totally. I mean, that's really positive. And when you look at the local government, and even when you look on the provinces, also the narrative is not positive here. But when we see what they have achieved, it's amazing when you compare with the past. So they reach out, and this happens, And also, I believe, of course, their economic status might be better, but the social stigmatization is still in this country continuing, especially in the rural area, and that's something, of course, which is a generational project, change of mind, attitude, but it still is there.
Change of the thought process and change of and earlier, as you mentioned as well, when it comes to the politics as well. Again, just talking about Switzerland itself as well. When it comes to thinking of the nation as a whole and thinking of everybody who is born here, thinking of them and working towards them, rather than working towards one individual, and rather than growing one's wealth. If we work together and grow the wealth of the nation, then I believe that should be the future agenda, I believe.
Yeah, but sorry, I have to really say what we see now on provincial level and local level is amazing. I mean, the responsibility of you have so many extremely positive mayors and deputy mayors, and each time I'm out of Kathmandu, I'm really amazed on what the system change has brought you. And I know that provinces are much contested and negative, but they have also changed a lot. I mean, they have when I look at Karnali, they have now developed a mental health strategy, and they want to invest in mental health support based on a very good mental health strategy from the government, federal government. So you really see changes, and you really see on local level and also provincial level. Although it's a provincial level, it's a new institution, but I am very positive as soon as I go out of Kathmandu about this country. So I just recommend you go and talk with these amazing people you have. I mean, it's amazing on also what they want to change and how they want to change, and also their accountability and commitment. And that is all the stories we don't talk here. And I would really, really encourage everybody to see it, because this is a different world. I was here during the time of the LDO, the local development officer, and the district forest officer, and all this system. I mean, this is a different world.
And it's a different system that's actually working.
Yes, it is working, at least. Of course, problems are there. As I said, that's why you have a parliament. The parliament is here to draft laws to improve the system, and also sometimes maybe also adapt the constitution. This is a living document. The fundament is good, and what you see on local level is fantastic. Of course, there's always bad.
Problems.
And there is always better people and lesser people, but in a general. And also, I would say, even on province level, I'm always amazed. Yeah. I'm also very, very, very happy when I come back.
That's great to know. And your tenure is about to end, if I'm not mistaken. A few weeks, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. Will you be heading back? And when will you be coming back?
That's a good question. No, I will head back. I'm not yet retired, but I will leave the foreign department. That has personal reason, but also for me, honestly speaking, I'm so grateful for what I had here. I cannot top it, what I have here, what I had here, what I could contribute or not contribute, but what I could experience. And I'm very grateful. I mean, we have a wonderful team. I mean, I cannot top it, so why should I?
Yeah.
And I'm extremely grateful for what I could do, and also grateful for my family, because they are back home and I'm here.
Yeah.
So, that's how I see it, and let's see what comes in future.
Brand, I want to talk a little bit about branding. Earlier, I talked about a few brands, Swiss brands. The whole world knows the brands. I could name them again. The whole planet knows the brands. The whole planet knows brand Switzerland. When it comes to I'm talking about tourism now. Just branding. I'm sure there've been a lot of ups and downs when it comes to branding Switzerland as well for the past 150 years or 200 years of the history of Switzerland. When it comes to branding, specific things that we could definitely go ahead and work on right away that's going to go ahead and transform when it comes to getting a lot of tourists within our country. Any suggestions? Anything that you'd want to add?
I mean, this country has so huge potential. You can brand on religious tourism. You can brand on this trekking tourism. You can brand on mass tourism from India and China. You can brand on whatever. I think there is a lot of potential for branding here. I think it should have a reflection, on what kind of brand it would be important. And that's why I believe the provinces are so important, because they will have a regional view on the potential of a region and then the branding. We have seen in COVID and in Switzerland, the tourism survived because of domestic tourism. And this will come, this is already now, we see domestic tourism is increasing, and that's wonderful. I think the tourism has to be domestic tourism. Of course, the others as well. But that's the one who also... And when you have more and more Nepali going for tourism, they also see the beauty. Maybe they get more sensitized about nature and architecture. And we have supported now the government of Nepal, and especially the provincial government, on... the Mundum Trail, which is quite famous now, and we will continue together with the Palikas and the province to develop further trails, which is the objective is really to have famous trails where there is then also opportunity for lodges and fooding, but where is also respect for the culture and nature. And I believe this is really a way to go. As I said, there is a lot of possibility for branding.
Exactly, and our culture and our heritage is obviously is
food, culture, heritage, and architecture. Yeah,
that is. Those are the those are the things that definitely are the 5 stars that we have, which makes us completely different than the rest of the world, along with all the landscape that we have as well. Obviously, we constantly talk about about our land. Well, we started with that as well. Our landscape is Switzerland, and we definitely need to. We definitely need to work towards getting there, or definitely being better than that. And we constantly talk about it here. And I'm sure you've heard this over 20 years. How does that make you feel? Today, again, asking you this.
I already told you.
How does that make you feel?
Don't become like Switzerland. That would be boring. It would be so boring. I believe Nepal can offer Switzerland certain, experience and reflection, and Nepal can have can maybe copy some of the good things we have, but don't become Switzerland. Certain things, rule of law, please, also Switzerland is also we are quite clean. And when I look about the waste management here, I definitely think you can improve a bit, because it's such a pity when you walk to this beautiful nature and you see all this garbage and waste. I think there, but also I believe this is a question of time. It will come. It will come. It has to come.
And your love for us is immense, and I can see it in your eyes, and I can feel it as well. Any specific place that you missed out in the past 20 years that you wish you had gone? Where is that?
Yeah, 2 districts I was not, and I was only 2. That's Humla, and I want to go in September, and Opperdolpo. And I wanted to go last September, but then I had COVID, so I could not go. These 2 places.
Humla I haven't been. Opperdolpo, how far do you want to go? You want to do the whole... You want to cross?
Yeah.
Oh, that's...
But that needs 2-3 weeks. But that one I planned in September, then I had COVID and then dengue, so I could not.
Oh, that reminds me, dengue is coming back, by the way. It's coming back, and we need to really work on that.
Yes.
That's beautiful to know. And you'll be staying back? You will be here throughout 2020. Will you stay back? Will you come back in the coming months?
Who knows? Inshallah. No, I plan to come for a handing over of my successor, and then I want to go to Humla, and then I don't know yet. what comes. I'm looking forward whatever comes.
77 districts we have today.
Yeah.
You've extended.
Two I was not.
You've covered.
Yeah.
All of
All,
them.
yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
All the districts.
Many
Almost.
walking. Nobody can still or think about it. Yeah.
And talked with majority of the friends across the districts.
Yeah.
When you reflect back, when you were just trying to understand, so when you look back today, meeting all these friends, meeting all these people, how has it changed your life, your perspective, your thought process, Your Excellency?
As I said, I am very much emotionally connected. So for me, it was a very rich emotional experience, and also, developed me also emotionally. And as I said, I'm just grateful for what I could. I mean, I'm so privileged that I could travel so much and see so much, and also have always a positive. This country gave me always positive vibes. I don't know why.
This is good.
I'm still positive.
We're glad.
So it never let me down.
That's really good to know. And just towards the end, adding this, your family on today's day, they've spent quite a lot of time with you here as well. And
No. I mean, my family not, because during COVID nobody could come.
Nobody could come.
And then my family's back. My husband works back in Switzerland. My son is back. My mother cannot travel anymore. So that's why I say that was. They also. I'm very grateful for them that they let me go, that they let me do what I could do here. I didn't take it for granted. But that's why it's also time to go back now.
I totally understand. I totally understand that. And you've been a friend to us, and you've been a friend to me. You've been a friend to the show as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
And thank you so much for doing what you do. And I know your love for Nepal is going to stay forever.
Yes, of course.
I can sense it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time. And in the coming years, Nepal and Swiss partnership is going to even grow further.
Yes.
I can already feel it.
Yes.
And thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Your Excellency.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to be here and talk with you.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This program is brought to you by Vyas Studios.